The snow started falling around 3 in the afternoon. At first, it was just a few soft flakes drifting down from the gray sky. But by 5 o'clock, the snow was coming down hard and fast. The wind picked up speed, pushing the snow sideways and making it difficult to see anything beyond a few feet. Jake Henderson sat in his kitchen, drinking his 3rd cup of coffee. He was a big man with rough hands and tired eyes. At 48 years old, he had been driving snowplows for almost 20 years. He knew what a bad storm looked like, and this one was going to be terrible. The weather report on his small television said it would be the worst blizzard in 10 years. Schools were closing early. Shops were shutting their doors. Everyone was being told to stay home. Jake put on his heavy coat, his thick gloves, and his warm hat. He grabbed his lunchbox from the counter. His sister Beth looked at him from the living room. She was knitting a scarf, her reading glasses sitting on the edge of her nose. "Be careful out there," she said. "This storm looks really bad." "I always am," Jake replied. He had said the same words to her 100 times before. "I'll be back in the morning." He walked out to his truck and drove to the county maintenance yard. The big orange snowplow was waiting for him, covered in a light layer of snow. Jake climbed up into the high seat and started the engine. The plow roared to life, loud and powerful. He checked his radio, his lights, and his equipment. Everything was ready. At 6 o'clock, Jake pulled out of the yard and headed toward Route 7, the main road that led into the small town of Pinewood. The town sat in a valley surrounded by mountains. Only 2 roads led in and out. When the snow got bad, those roads became dangerous fast. The snow was already 6 inches deep and still falling. Jake lowered the big metal plow and started pushing the snow to the side of the road. The work was slow and steady. Back and forth, back and forth. The yellow lights on top of his truck flashed through the white darkness. The radio crackled with voices from other plow drivers and the dispatch center. Everyone was busy. Everyone was needed. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Sarah Mitchell was having the worst day of her life. She sat in her old car on the side of the road, staring at the dashboard. The engine had died 5 minutes ago and would not start again. She had turned the key over and over, but nothing happened. Just clicking sounds and silence. Sarah was 32 years old, thin and tired-looking. She worked as a waitress at a diner during the day and cleaned offices at night. Money was always tight. There was never enough for everything they needed. But she kept going because she had to. She had Emma. Emma sat in the back seat looking out the window at the falling snow. She was 7 years old with long brown hair and bright, curious eyes. She wore leg braces on both legs, metal and plastic devices that helped her walk. Emma had cerebral palsy. She had been born too early, and her body did not work the way other children's bodies did. Her legs were weak and stiff. Walking was hard for her. Running was impossible. "Mommy, why did the car stop?" Emma asked. "It just got tired, sweetie," Sarah said, trying to keep her voice calm. It needs to rest, but Sarah knew the truth. The car was old and broken. She had been driving to the next town to pick up Emma's medicine from a pharmacy there. The pharmacy in Pinewood had run out, and Emma needed her medicine every day. Without it, her muscles would hurt badly. Sarah looked at her phone. The battery was at 2%. She had tried to call for help, but the call kept dropping. The storm was affecting the cell towers. She sent one quick text to her friend Lisa. "Car broke down on Route 7, need help." Then her phone screen went black. The battery was dead. Sarah looked outside. The snow was getting heavier. The wind was getting stronger. The temperature was dropping fast. She could see her breath inside the car now. The heater had stopped working when the engine died. "What do we do now?" Emma asked. She sounded scared. Sarah thought about their options. They could stay in the car and wait for help. But how long would that take? It was getting colder by the minute. They could freeze if they stayed too long, or they could walk. The town was about 3 miles away. That was a long distance in good weather. In a blizzard with Emma's leg braces, it would be even harder. But Sarah knew they could not stay in the car. Emma was already shivering. Sarah pulled out every blanket and jacket she had in the car and wrapped Emma up as much as she could. She put on her own coat and helped Emma out of the car. "We're going to walk to town, okay?" Sarah said, trying to sound brave. "It's an adventure." "I'm cold, Mommy," Emma said. "I know, baby. We'll be somewhere warm soon. I promise." Sarah held Emma's hand tightly. Emma's small legs moved slowly in the braces, each step taking effort. The snow was already up to Emma's knees. Sarah had to help her through the deep parts, sometimes lifting her completely and carrying her. They walked along the side of the road. The wind pushed against them, making every step harder. Snow stung their faces. Sarah's feet were getting numb. Her fingers ached from the cold even inside her gloves. Emma was crying now, small quiet sobs that broke Sarah's heart. "Keep going, Emma, you're so brave. Just keep going," Sarah said over and over. They had been walking for almost an hour. They must have covered a mile, maybe less. Emma was getting weaker. The cold was taking its strength from both of them. Sarah's mind felt foggy. She knew that was dangerous. That was a sign of hypothermia. Emma stumbled and fell into the snow. Sarah tried to pull her up, but her own legs were shaking badly now. The world seemed to be spinning. She could barely see through the snow. Everything was white and cold and endless. "Get up, Emma, please get up," Sarah begged. But Emma could not get up. She was too cold, too tired. Sarah fell to her knees beside her daughter. She pulled Emma close, wrapping her body around the little girl, trying to share whatever warmth she had left. "I'm sorry," Sarah whispered. "I'm so sorry." The snow kept falling. The wind kept blowing. The cold kept creeping into their bones. Sarah felt herself drifting away, her eyes closing. She tried to fight it, tried to stay awake, but she was so tired, so very tired. Her last thought before darkness took her was a prayer that someone would find Emma, that her little girl would survive even if she did not. The storm showed no mercy. The snow buried them slowly, gently, like a cold white blanket. Jake had been driving the snowplow for 3 hours straight. His back hurt and his eyes were tired from staring into the endless white storm. The radio kept crackling with calls from other drivers in the dispatch center. A tree had fallen on Miller Road. A power line was down near the school. A car was stuck in a ditch on Highway 9. Everyone was busy. Everyone was struggling. Jake took another pass down Route 7. This was his 4th time clearing this road tonight. The snow just kept coming, filling in the spaces he had already cleared. It was like trying to empty the ocean with a bucket, but this was his job. This was what he did. He kept people safe. He kept the roads open. Even when it felt impossible, he kept going. The big plow pushed through the snow, the engine roaring loud. The yellow warning lights on top of the truck flashed and spun, cutting through the darkness. Jake's headlights were on full, but they only showed a few feet ahead. Everything beyond that was just white. He was thinking about stopping for a break, maybe eating the sandwich Beth had packed for him, when he saw something strange. At first he thought it was just a pile of snow. The wind often made strange shapes, drifts that looked like hills or waves. But something about this pile was different. There was a spot of color. Pink. Bright pink. Jake hit the brakes. The big truck slid a little before stopping. He grabbed his radio. "Dispatch, this is Plow 7. I've got something on Route 7 about 2 miles south of town. Looks like someone might be out here. I'm checking it out. Copy that, Plow 7. Be careful." The dispatcher's voice crackled back. Jake climbed down from the high cab. The wind hit him immediately, cold and fierce. Snow stung his face. He pulled his hat down lower and started walking toward the pink color he had seen. His boots sank deep into the snow with every step. As he got closer, his heart started beating faster. It was not just a pile of snow. There were people. 2 people. A woman and a child. They were not moving. Jake ran the last few steps, his breath coming fast. The woman was lying partly on her side. Her body curved around the child like she was trying to protect her. The child was small, wearing a bright pink jacket. That was what Jake had seen. That splash of pink in all the white. "Hey, can you hear me?" Jake shouted over the wind. No answer. He knelt down in the snow and brushed it away from the woman's face. Her lips were blue. Her skin was pale, almost gray. Her eyes were closed. He put his fingers on her neck, feeling for a pulse. It was there, but weak and slow. She was alive, but barely. The child was underneath the woman, wrapped in her mother's arms. Jake carefully moved the woman aside so he could check on the little girl. The child's eyes were open, but she looked confused and dazed. She was shivering violently. "Hey there, sweetheart. My name is Jake. I'm going to help you, okay?" Jake said, trying to keep his voice gentle despite his panic. The little girl just stared at him. Her lips moved and he leaned closer to hear. "Mommy," she whispered. "Help, Mommy. I'm going to help both of you. I promise," Jake said. He looked at the woman again. She was in bad shape. Hypothermia for sure. Maybe frostbite. He looked at the child. She was cold and scared, but she was conscious. That was something. Jake grabbed his radio again. Dispatch, I need an ambulance at my location on Route 7, 2 miles south. I've got a woman and a child, both suffering from exposure. The woman is unconscious, static crackled. Then the dispatcher's voice came back, strained and worried. Plow 7, all ambulances are currently deployed. We've got multiple emergencies. The roads are bad. It's going to be at least 40 minutes, maybe more. 40 minutes. Jake looked at the woman lying in the snow. She did not have 40 minutes. He had to make a decision, and he had to make it fast. Copy that, dispatch. I'm transporting them myself, Jake said. Plow 7, you're not authorized. The dispatcher started. But Jake had already turned off the radio. He did not have time to argue. He bent down and picked up the child first. She was light, so light. He held her against his chest and carried her through the deep snow to his truck. He set her gently in the passenger seat and cranked the heat up as high as it would go. Stay right here, sweetheart. I'm going to get your mom. What's your name? Emma, the little girl said through chattering teeth. Okay, Emma, you're safe now. I'll be right back. Jake ran back through the snow to where the woman lay. She was bigger than the child, heavier. Jake was strong from years of physical work, but carrying her through knee-deep snow while the wind pushed against him was hard. He gritted his teeth and kept moving one step at a time until he reached the truck. Getting the woman into the cab was difficult. Jake had to push and pull and lift. Finally, he got her into the middle seat, between where he would sit and where Emma was. He wrapped them both in the emergency blankets he kept in the truck, thick silver things that held in heat. Jake climbed into the driver's seat and looked at his passengers. Emma was staring at her mother with wide, frightened eyes. The woman's head lolled to the side. Her breathing was shallow. Jake faced a choice. The hospital was in Riverside, the next town over. That was a 25-minute drive in good weather. Tonight, in this storm, on roads that were barely cleared, it could take an hour or more. He looked at the woman. He did not think she had an hour. His house was 5 minutes away. His sister Beth was there. Beth had been a nurse for 30 years before she retired. She would know what to do. She could help while they waited for the roads to clear, for an ambulance to get through. Jake made his decision. He put the truck in gear and turned it around, heading away from the hospital toward his home. As he drove, he talked to Emma, trying to keep her awake and calm. How old are you, Emma? 7, she said quietly. 7 is a good age. Do you go to school? Yes, 2nd grade. What's your favorite subject? Art. I like to draw. Jake noticed something about the way Emma was sitting. Her legs were at an odd angle. He glanced down and saw the metal braces on her legs strapped over her pants. Those are some special shoes you've got there, Jake said gently. They're my braces. They help me walk. My legs don't work, right? Emma said matter-of-factly. Jake felt something twist in his chest. This child, with her special braces and her sick mother, had been out in the worst storm in years. How had they ended up out here? Where were you and your mom going tonight? Jake asked. To get my medicine. The pharmacy here didn't have it. Mommy said we had to go to the other town, Emma said. She looked at her mother and her eyes filled with tears. Is Mommy going to be okay? Jake swallowed hard. I'm taking you both somewhere safe and warm. My sister is a nurse. She's going to take care of your mom. You're going to be okay, Emma, both of you. He hoped he was telling the truth. He hoped he had made the right choice. He hoped they were not too late. The lights of his cabin appeared through the snow. Jake had never been so happy to see home. He pulled the truck right up to the front door and honked the horn 3 times. Beth would hear that and know something was wrong. The front door opened and Beth stood there in her bathrobe, her gray hair messy from sleep. Her eyes went wide when she saw Jake carrying the woman. Beth, I need your help, Jake shouted. Beth did not ask questions. She had been a nurse too long for that. She held the door open wide and pointed to the couch. Bring her inside. Quickly, Beth said, her voice calm and steady. Jake carried the woman into the warm cabin and laid her on the couch. Then he went back for Emma, lifting her carefully and bringing her inside too. Beth was already checking the woman's pulse, lifting her eyelids, feeling her skin. Severe hypothermia. We need to warm her slowly. Too fast and her heart could stop, Beth said. She looked at Jake. Get towels. Get blankets. Start water for warm compresses. Not hot, just warm. Jake moved fast, doing everything Beth told him to do. Beth worked on the woman while Jake helped Emma out of her wet clothes and into warm, dry ones. He found some of his old t-shirts and sweatpants. They were way too big for the little girl, but they were warm and dry. Emma's teeth were still chattering. Her fingers and toes were red and painful looking. Jake wrapped her in blankets and sat her in the big armchair near the fireplace. He added more wood to the fire until it was blazing hot. All through the night, Beth worked. She wrapped the woman in warm blankets. She put warm compresses on her chest, her neck, her armpits. She monitored her pulse and her breathing. Jake helped, doing whatever Beth needed. Emma fell asleep in the chair, exhausted. Jake covered her with another blanket and kept the fire going strong. It was almost dawn when the woman's eyes finally opened. Jake watched as the woman's eyes slowly opened. At first, she just stared at the ceiling, confused and disoriented. Her eyes moved around the room, taking in the unfamiliar surroundings. Then suddenly, she tried to sit up fast, panic spreading across her face. "Emma!" she cried out, her voice hoarse and weak. "Where's Emma?" Beth gently pushed her back down. "Easy now. Your daughter is safe. She's right there." Beth pointed to the armchair where Emma was sleeping, wrapped in blankets, her face peaceful. The woman stared at her daughter for a long moment, tears filling her eyes. "She's okay?" the woman whispered. "She's okay," Beth confirmed. "Cold and tired, but okay. You protected her out there. You probably saved her life." The woman started crying, quiet sobs that shook her thin body. Jake stood awkwardly near the fireplace, not sure what to do or say. He had never been good with crying people. Not since his own daughter died. That was 15 years ago, but the pain still felt fresh sometimes. "Where am I?" the woman asked, wiping her eyes. "You're in my home," Jake said. "My name is Jake Henderson. This is my sister Beth. I found you and Emma on Route 7. You were both in bad shape. I brought you here because the hospital was too far and Beth is a nurse." The woman looked at them both, confusion and gratitude mixing on her face. "I'm Sarah Mitchell. Thank you. Thank you for saving us. I thought we were going to die out there." "What were you doing out in that storm?" Beth asked gently as she checked Sarah's pulse again. Sarah closed her eyes, fresh tears sliding down her cheeks. "My car broke down. We were trying to get to the pharmacy in Riverside. Emma needs her medicine every day. The pharmacy here ran out. I thought I could make it before the storm got bad, but..." Her voice trailed off. Jake felt anger rise in his chest. Not at Sarah, but at the situation, at how unfair life could be. This woman had been trying to get medicine for her sick child and had nearly died because of it. "What kind of medicine does Emma need?" Beth asked. "It's for her cerebral palsy. It helps with the muscle stiffness and pain. Without it, she hurts a lot," Sarah explained. She tried to sit up again, moving slower this time. "I need to get it for her. You need to rest," Beth said firmly. "The storm is still bad out there. Nobody is going anywhere for a while. Emma is sleeping peacefully. She's not in pain right now. When the road's clear, we'll figure something out." Sarah looked like she wanted to argue, but her body betrayed her. She was too weak, too exhausted. She lay back down and closed her eyes. Jake went to the window and looked out. The snow had finally stopped falling, but the wind was still blowing hard, creating drifts that were taller than a person. The roads would be buried. It would take hours, maybe a whole day, to clear them all. His radio crackled. He had left it on the kitchen table. He picked it up. "All units, this is dispatch. Road conditions are critical. We're calling everyone back to the yard for mandatory rest and equipment check. Do not attempt any non-emergency clearing until further notice." Jake clicked the radio off. He looked at Sarah sleeping on his couch and Emma curled up in his chair. They were safe now. That was what mattered. Beth came into the kitchen. "I'm going to make some soup," she said quietly. "Those two need food and fluids." "Good idea," Jake said. He paused. "Beth, what if we can't get Emma's medicine?" "What happens?" Beth was quiet for a moment. "Depends on how long she goes without it. A day or two she'll be uncomfortable, but okay. Longer than that, the muscle spasms can get bad. Really painful." Jake nodded. He went to the living room and sat in the chair across from where Emma slept. He studied her face. She looked so small, so fragile. Her dark hair spread across the pillow. One of her hands had slipped out from under the blanket. Her fingers were small and delicate. Something about this child touched something deep inside Jake. Maybe it was because she reminded him of his own daughter, Sophie. Sophie had been 8 when she died, just a year older than Emma. A drunk driver had run a red light. Sophie and her mother had died instantly. Jake's wife, his whole world, gone in seconds. Jake had spent the last 15 years just going through the motions of life. Wake up, work, eat, sleep, repeat. He had pushed everyone away. He stopped going to family gatherings. He stopped seeing friends. Even Beth, who had moved in with him after her divorce 3 years ago, knew to give him space. They lived in the same house but lived separate lives. But sitting here, watching this sleeping child who had nearly died in the snow, Jake felt something he had not felt in years. Purpose. A reason to care about something beyond just surviving another day. Emma stirred in her sleep. She made a small whimpering sound like she was having a bad dream. Without thinking, Jake reached over and gently patted her hand. Emma settled back into peaceful sleep. Beth brought soup and crackers on a tray. She woke Sarah gently and helped her sit up. Sarah ate slowly, her hands shaking as she held the spoon. When Emma woke up, Beth helped her eat too. The little girl was quiet, looking around the strange house with big eyes. "Where are we?" Emma asked her mother. "We're at Mr. Jake's house. He saved us from the snow," Sarah explained. Emma looked at Jake. "Thank you for saving me and Mommy." Jake felt his throat tighten. "You're welcome, Emma." Over the next few hours, Jake learned more about Sarah and Emma's life. Sarah talked while Emma drew pictures with some old crayons and paper Jake found in a drawer. Sarah was a single mother. Emma's father had left when Emma was a baby, unable to handle having a child with special needs. Sarah worked 2 jobs but still struggled to pay bills. Emma's medical expenses were high. The leg braces, the physical therapy, the medications. Insurance covered some of it, but not enough. Their apartment was small and cold in the worst part of town. Sarah's car was old and broke down often. She had no family nearby to help. Her parents had died in a car accident years ago. She had no siblings. It was just her and Emma against the world. Jake listened to all of this, and with each detail the anger in his chest grew. Not at Sarah, but at how hard her life was, how much she struggled just to take care of her daughter. That evening, after Emma had fallen asleep again, Jake sat at the kitchen table with Beth. The storm outside had finally stopped. The world was silent and white. "That woman is drowning," Beth said quietly. "She's working herself to death trying to keep that little girl healthy and safe." "I know," Jake said. "Someone should help her," Beth said. She looked at Jake meaningfully. Jake knew what Beth was suggesting. But how could he help? He was just a snowplow driver. He lived a simple life. He had enough money for himself and Beth, but nothing extra. Yet he could not stop thinking about Emma, her small voice saying thank you, her drawings scattered on his coffee table, the way she looked at her mother with complete trust and love. That night, Jake could not sleep. He lay in his bed staring at the ceiling. He thought about Sophie, his daughter who was gone. He thought about Emma, this little girl who had almost died in the snow. He thought about Sarah fighting so hard to give her daughter a life. And he thought about himself. What was his life? He went to work. He came home. He existed. He had been doing that for 15 years. Just existing. Not living. Not really. Maybe it was time for that to change. By morning, the roads were being cleared. The sun came out bright and blinding on all the white snow. Jake's radio squawked with orders to return to work. But before he left, he needed to do something. He found Sarah in the living room helping Emma stretch her legs. It was part of Emma's daily routine, Sarah explained. Stretching helped keep the muscles from getting too tight. "Sarah, I need to talk to you about something," Jake said. Sarah looked up, concerned. "Is something wrong?" "No, nothing's wrong. I've been thinking about you and Emma, about what happened, about what could have happened." Jake paused, trying to find the right words. "I want to help you." Sarah's expression became guarded. "You already helped us. You saved our lives. I can never repay that. I don't want to be repaid. I want to help. Really help." Jake took a breath. "I have a guest room here. It's not being used. I want you and Emma to stay here. For as long as you need, no rent. No strings attached?" Sarah stared at him like he had just spoken in a foreign language. "What? No, I can't accept that. We barely know you. I know it sounds crazy. But hear me out. This house has plenty of room. Beth and I rattle around here like 2 beans in a big can. You need a place that's warm and safe. Emma needs stability. And Jake paused. "I need to do this, please." Sarah shook her head. "Why would you do this for us?" "We're strangers." Jake looked at Emma, who was watching them both with curious eyes. "You're not strangers anymore. You're people who need help. And I'm someone who can help. That's all that matters." Sarah could not stop shaking her head. I appreciate what you're offering, I really do. But I can't just move into your house. You don't know anything about us. We could be anyone. Jake pulled out a chair and sat down at the kitchen table. He gestured for Sarah to sit too. She did, reluctantly, while Emma continued to play with the crayons on the floor. You're right. I don't know much about you, but I know you almost died trying to get medicine for your daughter. I know you used your own body to shield her from the cold. I know you're working 2 jobs to make ends meet. That tells me everything I need to know about who you are, Jake said. Beth came into the kitchen carrying a basket of laundry. She had been listening from the hallway. He's right, Sarah. You're a good mother doing the best you can. There's no shame in accepting help when you need it. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. I've never been good at accepting help. I've always done things on my own. Maybe that's the problem, Beth said gently. She sat down at the table too. Nobody can do everything alone. We all need help sometimes. Sarah wiped her eyes. She looked around the kitchen at the clean counters, the full refrigerator, the warm light coming through the windows. Then she looked at Emma, who was drawing a picture of a snowman, completely content. What would you expect from us? If we stayed, I mean, Sarah asked quietly. Nothing, Jake said. Well, maybe help with dishes sometimes. Beth and I are terrible about letting them pile up. Beth laughed. That's true. And maybe some company at dinner. This house has been too quiet for too long. Sarah was silent for a long time. Jake could see her thinking, weighing her options, fighting her pride. I can't stay here for free. I need to contribute something, Sarah finally said. Then pay what you can afford, whatever that is. Even if it's nothing, Jake replied. And when you get back on your feet, when things are better, you can move out. No pressure. No timeline. Why are you doing this? Sarah asked again, searching his face for answers. Jake looked down at his rough, calloused hands. 15 years ago, I lost my wife and daughter in a car accident. Since then, I've just been going through the motions. Working, eating, sleeping, not really living. When I found you and Emma in that snow, something changed. I felt something again. I felt like I had a reason to care. Does that make sense? Sarah's expression softened. I'm so sorry about your family. Thank you. It was a long time ago, but some pain doesn't fade, Jake said. My point is, helping you and Emma, it helps me too. It gives me a purpose again. So in a way, you'd be doing me a favor by staying. Sarah looked at Emma again. Her daughter was humming softly, lost in her drawing. Sarah thought about their apartment. The cold that seeped through the thin walls. The broken heater that the landlord never fixed. The neighborhood where she was afraid to let Emma play outside. The constant stress of not having enough money for food and medicine and rent. Then she looked around this warm, safe house. She thought about Beth's kindness. Jake's genuine offer of help. The possibility of not being alone anymore. Okay, Sarah said quietly. We'll stay, but just until I can save enough money to get a better place, and I will pay you what I can. Jake smiled. Really smiled. For the first time in years. Deal. That afternoon, Jake drove Sarah and Emma back to their apartment to get their things. The roads had been cleared enough to drive carefully. When they pulled up to the building, Jake's heart sank. The place was run down, paint peeling off the walls, broken windows covered with plastic, trash in the hallways. Sarah's apartment was on the 3rd floor. It was 1 bedroom, tiny and cold. The furniture was old and worn. There were cracks in the walls. The window in the bedroom did not close all the way, and cold air whistled through the gap. But the apartment was clean. Sarah had done her best to make it nice. There were cheerful curtains on the windows. Emma's drawings covered 1 wall. A small bookshelf held a collection of children's books. This is all we need to take, Sarah said, pointing to 3 suitcases and a few boxes. Emma's clothes. My work uniforms. Some toys and books. That's it. Jake looked at how little they had. An entire life packed into 3 suitcases and a few boxes. It made him sad and angry at the same time. They loaded everything into Jake's truck. Emma carried her favorite stuffed animal, a worn teddy bear missing 1 eye. This is Mr. Bear, she told Jake seriously. He goes everywhere with me. Mr. Bear is welcome at my house, Jake said just as seriously. Back at the cabin, Beth had prepared the guest room. She had put fresh sheets on the bed, cleared out the closet, and even put some flowers in a vase on the dresser. The room was bigger than Sarah's entire apartment. It had its own bathroom and a large window that looked out at the snow-covered trees. Emma can sleep in here with you. Or we can set up the spare cot in the corner if she wants her own sleeping space. Beth said. Emma's eyes were wide. Is this all for us? All for you, Beth confirmed. Emma limped over to the window, her leg braces clicking softly. Mommy, look! I can see the birds. Sarah stood in the doorway, overwhelmed. This is too much. This room is too nice. Nonsense. It's just been sitting empty. Might as well get some use out of it, Beth said. Now let's get you two settled in. Over the next few days, a routine developed. Sarah continued working her 2 jobs. Jake drove her to work and picked her up when her shifts ended. He did not mind. It gave him something to do, someone to care about. Beth took care of Emma during the day while Sarah worked. She made sure Emma did her stretching exercises. She helped her with the workbook Sarah had gotten from Emma's teacher. They baked cookies together. They watched old movies. They became fast friends. Emma brought life to the house in ways Jake had not expected. Her laughter rang through the rooms. Her drawings appeared on the refrigerator. Her small voice asking questions about everything. Why was snow white? How did birds stay warm? What did Jake do with all that snow he pushed with his plow? Jake found himself looking forward to coming home from work. For years, home had just been a place to sleep. Now it was a place where people were waiting for him, where dinner smells filled the kitchen, where Emma would run to the door, her leg braces clicking, shouting, "Jake's home." One evening, about a week after Sarah and Emma had moved in, Jake came home to find Emma crying on the couch. Beth was comforting her, but Emma was clearly in pain. What's wrong? Jake asked, immediately concerned. Her medicine ran out yesterday. Her legs are hurting, Beth explained quietly. Sarah came out of the bedroom looking exhausted and worried. I've been calling pharmacies all day. Nobody has it in stock. They say it will be another week before they can get it. Emma whimpered, tears streaming down her face. It hurts, Mommy. Jake hated seeing her in pain. He hated feeling helpless. There has to be something we can do. There is, Beth said. But it's expensive. We can go to the hospital. They can give her an injection that will help with the pain and muscle spasms. It's not the same as her regular medicine, but it will help until we can get her prescription filled. How expensive? Sarah asked, her voice strained. A few $100s probably, Beth said. Sarah's face fell. I don't have that. I just paid rent on my old apartment before we left. I only have about $30 until I get paid next week. I'll pay for it, Jake said immediately. No, I can't let you, Sarah started. Sarah, look at her. She's in pain. I have the money. Let me do this, Jake said firmly. Sarah looked at her daughter, torn between pride and Emma's needs. Finally, she nodded. I'll pay you back. Every penny. We'll worry about that later. Right now, let's get Emma to the hospital, Jake said. They all went together. Beth came along to help explain Emma's condition to the doctors. The emergency room was not crowded, thankfully. Emma was seen quickly. The doctor gave her an injection and prescribed a different pain medication to use until her regular medicine was available. The bill came to $340. Jake paid it without hesitation. On the drive home, Emma was already feeling better. The medicine was working. She was chatting happily about the stickers the nurse had given her. Sarah was quiet, staring out the window. When they got home and Emma was in bed, she found Jake in the kitchen. Thank you, she said, for everything. The room, the rides to work, the medicine, all of it. I don't know how to repay you. You don't have to repay me, Jake said. Seeing Emma smile is payment enough. Sarah shook her head. Nobody is this kind without wanting something. Jake understood her suspicion. She had probably been disappointed by people before. Been let down. Been hurt. I don't want anything from you, Sarah, I promise. I just want to help. Is that so hard to believe? Jake asked gently. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Yes, it is. Because people don't help. Not like this. Not without expecting something back. Then maybe I'm different, Jake said. Or maybe you've just met the wrong people until now. Sarah wiped her eyes. I'm not used to this. To people being kind. To not doing everything alone. It's scary. I know, Jake said. Change is scary. But sometimes it's good scary. Sarah managed a small smile. Maybe. That night, Jake lay in bed and listened to the sounds of the house. He could hear Beth snoring softly in her room. He could hear the old house settling and creaking. And he could hear the faint sound of Sarah's voice through the walls reading a bedtime story to Emma. The house did not feel empty anymore. It felt like a home. It felt alive. 3 days passed and the blizzard showed no signs of ending. The snow kept falling, softer now but steady. The roads that Jake had cleared in the morning were buried again by afternoon. The whole world seemed to be frozen in white silence. For Sarah, this forced time inside the cabin was strange. She was not used to staying still. She was always working, always moving, always doing something to earn money or take care of Emma. But now, with the roads too dangerous to drive and her jobs calling to say they understood if she could not make it in, she had nowhere to go, nothing to do but rest. It felt wrong at first. Sarah kept trying to find ways to help around the house. She cleaned the kitchen until it sparkled. She organized the closets. She folded laundry. Beth finally had to tell her to stop. "You're making me look bad," Beth joked. "Sit down. Read a book. Watch some television. Rest." "I don't know how to rest," Sarah admitted. "Then it's time you learned," Beth said kindly. "You've been running on empty for too long. Your body needs time to recover from the hypothermia. Let yourself heal." So Sarah tried. She sat on the couch with a book Beth gave her. She drank hot tea. She watched Emma play. And slowly, she felt some of the tension leave her body. The constant worry that had lived in her chest for years loosened just a little bit. Emma, on the other hand, was thriving. The cabin was warm and cozy. There was plenty of food. Beth made hot chocolate every afternoon. And most importantly, there was Jake. Emma had developed a fascination with Jake. She followed him around the house whenever he was home. She asked him endless questions. She wanted to know everything about snowplows, about snow, about his job, about his life. Jake was patient with her in a way that surprised even himself. He had avoided children for 15 years, the pain of losing Sophie too sharp. But Emma was different somehow. Maybe it was because she needed him, or maybe it was because she reminded him that life could still hold joy, even after tragedy. On the third day of being snowed in, Jake looked out the window at the mountain of snow in the backyard and got an idea. "Emma, have you ever been on a sled?" he asked. Emma looked up from her coloring book. "No, what's a sled?" Jake smiled. "Let me show you." He went out to his garage and found an old sled he had bought years ago for Sophie. It was dusty and covered with cobwebs, but it was still in good shape. He cleaned it off and brought it inside. Emma's eyes went wide when she saw it. "What is that?" "This is a sled. You sit on it and slide down hills in the snow. It's a lot of fun," Jake explained. "But I can't walk in the snow very well," Emma said, looking down at her leg braces. "My legs don't work right." Jake knelt down so he was eye level with her. "That's okay. You don't have to walk. I'll pull you. Would you like to try?" Emma looked uncertain. Sarah, who had been watching from the kitchen, came over. "Are you sure that's safe?" she asked Jake. "I'll be with her the whole time. I'll make sure she's secure. If she doesn't like it, we'll come right back in," Jake promised. Sarah looked at Emma. "Do you want to try, sweetheart?" Emma nodded, a small smile appearing on her face. Yes, they bundled Emma up in warm clothes. Beth found an old winter coat of Sophie's that fit Emma almost perfectly. They put on mittens and a hat and wrapped a scarf around her neck. Emma looked like a small, colorful marshmallow. Jake carried Emma outside and placed her carefully on the sled. He tied a rope to the front and made sure she was sitting securely. "Hold on tight to these handles," he instructed. "If you want me to stop, just yell stop and I will." Emma gripped the handles, her eyes bright with excitement and a little bit of fear. Jake started walking, pulling the sled behind him. The sled glided smoothly over the snow. Emma squealed with delight. "Faster!" she shouted. Jake laughed and picked up the pace. He pulled Emma around the backyard, making big circles and figure eights. Emma's laughter rang out across the snowy landscape. It was the most beautiful sound Jake had heard in years. Sarah and Beth watched from the window, both of them smiling. "He's good with her," Beth said softly. "He is," Sarah agreed. She felt something strange in her chest. Gratitude, yes, but something else too, something she was not ready to name. After about 30 minutes, Jake brought Emma back inside. Her cheeks were red from the cold and her eyes were shining. "That was so fun," Emma exclaimed. "Can we do it again tomorrow?" "Absolutely," Jake promised. That night, Emma could not stop talking about her sled ride. She drew pictures of it. She told Beth about it in great detail. And when Sarah tucked her into bed, Emma said something that made Sarah's heart ache. "I wish Jake could be my daddy," Emma said sleepily. Sarah's throat tightened. "Honey, Jake is our friend. He's being very kind to us, but he's not your daddy." I know, Emma said, but I wish he was. He's nice. He makes me laugh. He's not like the other grown-ups who look at my legs and feel sad. He just sees me. Sarah kissed her daughter's forehead, fighting back tears. You're right. He does see you. Now get some sleep, okay? Okay, Mommy, I love you. I love you too, baby. So much. After Emma fell asleep, Sarah went to the kitchen for some water. Jake was there making a sandwich. Thank you for today, Sarah said. Emma had the best time. So did I, Jake said honestly. She's a special kid. She is, Sarah agreed. She paused, not sure if she should say what was on her mind. Finally, she decided to be honest. Jake, can I ask you something? Sure. Why are you doing all of this? Really? Sarah asked. I know what you said before about needing purpose. But this is more than just helping someone. You're going out of your way. You're changing your whole life for us. Jake set down his sandwich. He was quiet for a moment, thinking about how to answer. When my daughter died, I died too. Not physically, but inside. I stopped caring about anything. I stopped feeling. I was just empty, Jake said slowly. Then I found you and Emma in that snow. And something shifted. For the first time in 15 years, I felt something. Fear that you might die. Relief when you lived. Happiness when Emma laughed. I felt alive again. He looked at Sarah directly. You and Emma, you woke me up. You reminded me that there's still good in the world. Still reasons to care. Still reasons to live. So when you ask why I'm doing this, the answer is simple. Because you gave me something I thought I'd lost forever. Hope. Sarah felt tears roll down her cheeks. She wiped them away quickly. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, Jake said gently. Over the next few days, the bond between Jake and Emma grew stronger. Every morning, Jake would pull Emma around the yard on the sled before he left for work. Every evening, they would sit by the fire and Jake would tell Emma stories about the different things he had seen while driving his snowplow. Bears crossing the road, eagles flying overhead, the northern lights dancing in the sky on clear winter nights. Emma hung on his every word. She asked questions about everything. She wanted to know what it was like to drive such a big truck. What did all the buttons do? Was he ever scared? Did he ever get stuck in the snow? Jake answered every question patiently. He found himself looking forward to these evening talks. He had forgotten what it was like to see the world through a child's eyes. Everything was interesting. Everything was exciting. Everything was possible. One evening, Emma asked Jake if he would teach her to draw a snowplow. I'm not very good at drawing, Jake warned. That's okay. I'm really good. I'll help you, Emma said with the complete confidence of a 7-year-old. So they sat at the kitchen table with paper and crayons drawing together. Emma instructed Jake on how to make the wheels, how to draw the big plow on the front, how to add the flashing yellow lights on top. Sarah watched them from the doorway, her heart full. She had spent so many years doing everything alone, being both mother and father to Emma. She had never imagined someone else could step into that role, even temporarily. But here was Jake, this gruff man who had saved their lives, sitting at the table and drawing with her daughter like it was the most natural thing in the world. Beth came up beside Sarah. They're good together, she whispered. They are, Sarah agreed. It scares me a little. Why? Because this won't last forever, Sarah said quietly. Eventually, Emma and I will have to leave. We'll have to go back to our own lives, and then Emma will have to say goodbye to Jake. I don't want her heart to break. Beth was quiet for a moment. Maybe you won't have to leave. Maybe this could be your life. Sarah shook her head. I can't stay here forever accepting charity. I need to stand on my own 2 feet. Who says accepting help is weakness?
Maybe it's just being smart enough to recognize when something good comes along, Beth said. Sarah did not respond.
She was not ready to think about the future. Not yet. For now, she just wanted to enjoy these moments. These days where Emma was happy and safe and laughing. These days where Sarah could breathe without the constant weight of worry crushing her chest. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, Jake stood in his garage looking at the old boxes stacked in the corner. Sophie's things. He had packed them away 15 years ago and never looked at them again. It had been too painful. Now slowly he opened one box. Inside were Sophie's toys, her books, her clothes. He pulled out a small stuffed rabbit that had been her favorite. For the first time in 15 years, Jake did not feel crushing pain when he thought about his daughter. He felt sadness, yes. He would always feel sad about losing her. But he also felt something else. Gratitude for the time they had together. Peace that she was no longer suffering. And love. So much love that it filled his entire chest. I think you would have liked Emma, Jake whispered to the memory of his daughter. She's brave like you were. Strong like you were. She reminds me of you. Jake carefully packed the rabbit away again. But this time it did not feel like closing a door. It felt like making space. Space for new memories, new love, new life. He went back inside to find Emma standing in the hallway in her pajamas, clutching Mr. Bear. I had a bad dream, she said quietly. Want to tell me about it? Jake asked. Emma shook her head. Can you just sit with me until I fall back asleep? Of course, Jake said. He carried Emma back to her room and sat in the chair beside her bed. He held her small hand until her breathing became slow and steady, until he was sure she was deeply asleep. Then he sat there a little longer, just watching her sleep, feeling grateful for this unexpected second chance at having a child in his life. Things were changing. Jake was changing. And for the first time in a very long time, he was not afraid of change. He was welcoming it. The storm finally broke on the fourth day. The sun came out, bright and almost blinding against all the white snow. The roads were cleared. Life started moving again. Sarah went back to work. Jake drove Sarah to the diner for her morning shift. The drive was quiet. Sarah stared out the window, her face tense. You okay? Jake asked. I'm fine, Sarah said, but her voice said otherwise. Jake did not push. He had learned that Sarah would talk when she was ready. After he dropped her off, Jake drove to the apartment building where Sarah and Emma used to live. He had been thinking about something. He wanted to see their old apartment again, to understand what their life had been like before. The building looked even worse in the daylight. The parking lot was full of potholes. Graffiti covered the walls. A group of men stood on the corner, watching Jake with hard eyes as he got out of his truck. Jake climbed the stairs to the third floor. The hallway smelled like old cooking and mildew. He stood outside Sarah's old apartment. Through the thin door he could hear a baby crying in the next unit, music thumping from somewhere above. This was where Sarah and Emma had lived. In this cold, noisy, unsafe place, because it was all Sarah could afford. Jake felt anger burn in his chest. Not at Sarah, never at Sarah, but at the unfairness of it all. Sarah worked 2 jobs. She did everything right. She was a good mother, a hard worker, a kind person, and yet she had been living in a place like this, struggling every day just to survive. Something crystallized in Jake's mind at that moment. A decision he had been circling around for days but had been too afraid to fully commit to. He got back in his truck and drove to the county maintenance office. His boss, Tom Peterson, looked up in surprise when Jake walked in. Jake! Didn't expect to see you today. Roads are all clear. You could take the day off, Tom said. I need to talk to you about something, Jake said. You remember when you said you were looking for someone to work in the office? Filing paperwork, answering phones, that kind of thing? Yeah, why? Tom asked. I know someone who would be perfect. She's reliable, hard-working, good with people. She's working 2 jobs right now just to make ends meet. This would be better for her. Better hours, better pay, benefits, Jake said. Tom leaned back in his chair. You're talking about that woman you rescued from the storm, aren't you? Sarah something? Sarah Mitchell. And yeah, I am, Jake confirmed. Jake, I can't just hire someone because you ask me to. She'd have to apply like everyone else. There's a process, Tom said, I know. I'm just asking you to give her a fair chance. Interview her. If you don't think she's right for the job, fine. But just meet with her. Please, Jake said. Tom studied Jake for a long moment. They had worked together for 15 years. Tom had watched Jake shut down after his family died. He had watched Jake become a shell of the man he used to be. But now, standing here asking for help for someone else, Jake looked different. He looked alive. All right. Tell her to come by tomorrow morning. I'll talk to her, Tom said. Thank you, Jake said, relief flooding through him. Jake, can I ask you something? Tom said, what's going on with you? You're different lately. Jake thought about the question. I'm trying to be better. To do better. That's all. That evening, Jake picked Sarah up from her second job at the cleaning company. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes. Long day? Jake asked as she climbed into the truck. They're all long days, Sarah said, leaning her head back against the seat. I have something to tell you, Jake said. I talked to my boss today. The county maintenance office has an opening for an administrative assistant. Better hours than what you're working now. Better pay. Health benefits. I told him about you. He wants to interview you tomorrow. Sarah's head snapped up. You did what? I got you a job interview. Well, not a job. Just an interview. But it's a real opportunity, Jake said. Sarah's expression was hard to read. You went behind my back? I was trying to help, Jake said, confused by her reaction. I didn't ask for your help with this, Sarah said, her voice sharp. Jake pulled the truck over to the side of the road. Sarah, what's wrong? I thought you'd be happy. Sarah took a deep breath, trying to control her emotions. I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I need to do things on my own. I need to get jobs because I earned them, not because someone felt sorry for me. Nobody feels sorry for you, Jake said firmly. I told Tom the truth, that you're hardworking and reliable, that you'd be good at the job. The rest is up to you. He's given you a chance, that's all. But you got me the chance, using your friendship with your boss. That's not earning it, Sarah said. Jake was quiet for a moment. Can I be honest with you? Please, Sarah said, you're proud. I get that. I respect it. But sometimes pride gets in the way of what's best. This job would be better for you and Emma. You wouldn't have to work 2 jobs anymore. You'd have time to spend with your daughter, health insurance, so you don't have to worry about Emma's medical bills. Is your pride really worth more than that? Jake asked gently. Sarah felt tears sting her eyes. You don't understand. My whole life, people have helped me because they felt sorry for me. The single mom with the disabled kid. Poor Sarah, let's give her charity. I'm so tired of being someone people pity. I don't pity you, Jake said seriously. I admire you. You're one of the strongest people I've ever met. But being strong doesn't mean you have to do everything alone. Sarah wiped her eyes. What if I go to this interview and I don't get the job? What if I'm not good enough? Then you tried. And that's what matters, Jake said. But I think you'll get it. I think you're going to walk in there and impress the hell out of Tom. Sarah managed a small smile. You really believe that? I do, Jake said honestly. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Sarah nodded. Okay, I'll go to the interview. Good, Jake said, starting the truck again. When they got home, Emma was waiting by the door. She threw her arms around Sarah's legs. Mommy! I missed you, Emma said. Sarah picked her daughter up, holding her tight. I missed you too, baby. Beth had made dinner. They all sat around the table together, eating and talking. Emma told Sarah about her day, about the books Beth had read to her, about the snowman they had started building in the yard. After dinner, while Beth helped Emma with her bath, Jake found Sarah in the kitchen washing dishes. Can I help? He asked. Sure, Sarah said. They worked in comfortable silence for a few minutes. Then Sarah spoke. I need to tell you something, she said. When Emma and I move out, whenever that is, I'm going to pay you back. For the medicine. For letting us stay here. All of it. Sarah, Jake started. Please let me finish. Sarah interrupted. I need to say this. You've done so much for us. More than anyone has ever done. And I'm grateful. More grateful than I can put into words. But I need you to know that I'm not staying here forever. I'm not looking for someone to take care of me. I'm going to stand on my own 2 feet. I'm going to provide for my daughter. That's important to me. Jake dried his hands on a towel and turned to face her. I understand. And I respect that. But can I say something too? Sarah nodded. What if you don't have to leave? Jake said. What if this could be permanent? You and Emma living here, being part of this family. Sarah's breath caught. Jake, we can't. Why not? Jake asked. This house is too big for just Beth and me. You need a safe place to raise Emma. Emma needs stability. It makes sense. It doesn't make sense, Sarah said. We barely know each other. You can't just invite strangers to live in your house forever. You're not strangers. Not anymore, Jake said. Sarah, in the last week, this house has felt more like a home than it has in 15 years. Emma's laughter. Your presence. Having people to care about. I don't want that to end. Sarah shook her head. This is too much. It's too fast. We need to slow down. Okay, Jake said, backing off. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to pressure you. Just think about it, okay? There's no rush. No expectations. Sarah nodded, but she looked troubled. That night, Sarah could not sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling. On the cot nearby, Emma slept peacefully. Mr. Bear clutched in her arms. Sarah thought about everything that had happened. A week ago, she and Emma had been dying in the snow. Now they were living in a warm house with people who cared about them. Jake was offering them a permanent home. It was like a fairy tale. But Sarah did not believe in fairy tales. She believed in hard work and standing on your own. She believed that if something seemed too good to be true, it probably was. Still, she could not deny that Emma was happier here than she had been in months. Maybe years. Emma smiled more, laughed more. She was not as worried about money or safety. Because she did not have to be. She was just a kid being a kid. Wasn't that what Sarah wanted most? For Emma to have a normal childhood? To not have to worry about adult things? But accepting Jake's offer felt like giving up. Like admitting she could not do it on her own. And Sarah had always done things on her own, except she was tired. So incredibly tired. Tired of working 2 jobs. Tired of never having enough money. Tired of worrying all the time. Tired of being alone. Maybe Beth was right. Maybe accepting help was not weakness. Maybe it was just being smart enough to recognize when something good came along. Sarah did not have the answer yet. But tomorrow she would go to that interview. She would take that first step. And maybe, just maybe, she would start to believe that good things could happen. That she and Emma deserved good things. That they deserved a home. Sarah stood outside the county maintenance office building, her hands shaking. She had changed her outfit 3 times that morning, finally settling on a simple blue dress and cardigan. It was the nicest thing she owned. Beth had helped her with her hair, pulling it back into a neat bun. Emma had kissed her cheek and said, "You look beautiful, Mommy, you're going to do great." But Sarah did not feel great. She felt terrified. She took a deep breath and walked through the door. Tom Peterson was a big man with a friendly face and kind eyes. He shook Sarah's hand firmly and gestured for her to sit down. "Jake tells me you're a hard worker," Tom said. "I try to be," Sarah replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "Tell me about yourself. What kind of work experience do you have?" Tom asked. Sarah told him about her jobs. The diner where she had worked for 3 years. The cleaning company where she had worked for 2. She explained that she was reliable, always on time, good with customers. Tom asked her questions about computers, about filing systems, about working with the public. Sarah answered as best she could. Some things she knew. Some things she admitted she would need to learn. "I'll be honest with you," Tom said after about 20 minutes. "This job requires some skills you don't have yet. Computer programs you've never used. Processes you don't know. But skills can be taught. What I care about most is attitude. Jake vouched for you, and I trust Jake's judgment. He says you're someone who shows up, who works hard, who doesn't give up. Is that true?" Sarah met his eyes directly. "Yes, sir. That's true. I don't know everything about office work, but I'm willing to learn. I'll work harder than anyone else. I'll stay late. I'll come in early. Whatever it takes," Tom smiled. "When can you start?" Sarah blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" "When can you start?" "The job is yours if you want it," Tom said. Sarah felt tears spring to her eyes. She wiped them away quickly. "Really, you're hiring me?" "Really, $8 an hour to start. Full health benefits after 90 days. Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. No weekends, no nights. You'll train with Linda for the first month. She's been here 20 years and knows everything." "Is that acceptable?" Tom asked. Sarah did a quick calculation in her head. $8 an hour, 40 hours a week. That was more than she made at both her other jobs combined. And she would only work 1 job. She would have evenings and weekends with Emma. "Yes," Sarah said, her voice cracking. "Yes, that's more than acceptable." "Thank you. Thank you so much, and don't thank me." "Earn it," Tom said, but his smile was warm. "Can you start Monday?" "Yes, absolutely," Sarah said. She left the office in a daze. She sat in Jake's truck for a full 5 minutes, just trying to process what had happened. She had a job. A real job. With benefits and regular hours. A job that would let her support Emma properly. She grabbed her cell phone and called Jake. "How did it go?" He answered immediately. "I got it," Sarah said. "I got the job." She heard Jake whoop with joy on the other end of the line. "I knew it. I knew you would." "Sarah, that's amazing." Sarah found herself laughing, the relief and happiness bubbling up inside her. "I start Monday. I have to give notice at my other jobs, but I start Monday. This calls for a celebration. I'm taking everyone out to dinner tonight," Jake said. That evening, they went to the nicest restaurant in town. Emma wore the pretty dress Beth had bought her. Sarah wore her interview outfit. Jake wore a button-down shirt Jake had not worn in years. Beth wore pearls and lipstick. They sat at a round table and Emma was bouncing with excitement. "Mommy got a new job. Mommy got a new job," she kept saying. Sarah felt lighter than she had in years. She ordered whatever she wanted without checking the prices first. She did not have to. For the first time in a long time, money was not the biggest worry in her mind. Over dinner, they talked and laughed. Emma told jokes she had learned from Beth. Jake told stories about his craziest days driving the snowplow. Beth shared embarrassing stories about Jake when he was younger. Sarah watched her daughter laughing, her face bright with joy, and felt her heart swell. This was what she had always wanted for Emma. This feeling of safety and happiness and family. After dinner, when they got home, Emma fell asleep almost immediately, exhausted from the excitement. Sarah tucked her in and kissed her forehead. When she came out to the living room, Jake was sitting by the fireplace. Beth had gone to bed already. "Thank you," Sarah said, sitting down in the chair across from him. "For everything. For the interview. For believing in me. For all of it. You earned that job yourself. I just opened a door." "You walked through it," Jake said. Sarah was quiet for a moment. "I've been thinking about what you said. About staying here. Permanently." Jake sat up straighter but did not say anything. "I think I was wrong to dismiss it so quickly," Sarah continued. "Emma loves it here. She's happier than I've ever seen her. And She paused, searching for words. "I feel safe here. For the first time in years, I feel like I can breathe." "So what are you saying?" Jake asked carefully. "I'm saying I want to try. Living here. Being part of this family. But slowly. No pressure. No expectations. Just seeing how it goes," Sarah said. Jake smiled, really smiled. "I'd like that. And I still want to contribute. I'll pay rent once I start getting paychecks. I'll help with groceries and bills. I need to feel like I'm pulling my weight," Sarah added. "Deal," Jake said. "Though I'm going to keep the rent low. This house is paid off. I don't need much." "We'll figure it out," Sarah said. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the fire crackle. Sarah felt something settle in her chest. Hope, maybe, or peace, or just the feeling of being home. The months passed. Winter turned to spring. The snow melted, revealing green grass and early flowers. Sarah settled into her new job. Linda taught her everything she needed to know. Sarah learned fast. Within 2 months, she was handling tasks on her own. Within 3 months, Tom told her she was one of the best hires they had ever made. Sarah's life transformed. She worked one job with regular hours. She had health insurance. She had money left over after paying bills. She could buy Emma new clothes when she needed them. She could afford Emma's medications without panic. She could even save a little bit each month. Emma thrived too. With the better health insurance, they found a new doctor who specialized in cerebral palsy. The doctor adjusted Emma's medications and recommended a new physical therapy program. Emma started getting stronger. Walking became a little easier. The pain became less frequent, but more than the physical improvements, Emma blossomed emotionally. She laughed all the time. She was confident and outgoing. She made friends at school and invited them over to play. She called Jake's house home without hesitation, and Emma's relationship with Jake grew deeper. Jake taught Emma how to fish in the spring. He took her to her physical therapy appointments. He helped her with homework. He attended every school event. He was not her father, but he was something just as important. He was someone who showed up. Someone who cared. Someone who loved her. Sarah and Jake grew closer too. Slowly, carefully, they moved from being housemates to friends to something more. It started with small things. Jake bringing Sarah coffee in the morning. Sarah making Jake's favorite dinner. Long talks on the porch after Emma went to bed. Hands brushing accidentally and then not so accidentally. One evening in late summer, almost 9 months after that night in the snow, they were sitting on the porch swing watching the sunset. Emma and Beth were inside watching a movie. "I need to tell you something," Jake said. Sarah looked at him. "Okay, I love her," Jake said. "I love Emma. Like she's my own daughter." "Is that okay to say?" Sarah felt tears fill her eyes. "Yes, it's okay. She loves you too. She told me last week that she wished you were her real dad." Jake's eyes got shiny. "Really?" "Really," Sarah confirmed. "Jake, you've been more of a father to her in these few months than her real father ever was in her whole life." Jake took Sarah's hand. And you. I need to tell you about you too. Sarah's heart started beating faster. What about me? I love you too, Jake said simply. I didn't think I could feel this way again. After losing my wife and daughter, I thought that part of my life was over. But you changed everything. You and Emma, you brought me back to life. Sarah squeezed his hand. I love you too. I think I've loved you since that first morning when I woke up and you were there, having saved my life. But I was too scared to admit it. Too scared that it was too good to be true. It is true, Jake said. He leaned closer. Is it okay if I kiss you? Sarah smiled. Yes. Their first kiss was soft and sweet and felt like coming home. Christmas came, exactly 1 year after that terrible night in the blizzard. The house was decorated with lights and garlands. A big tree stood in the corner of the living room, covered with ornaments. Presents were piled underneath. On Christmas morning, Emma woke up early and ran to wake everyone else. They gathered around the tree in their pajamas, drinking hot chocolate and opening gifts. Emma got new books, new art supplies, and a beautiful doll she had been wanting. Beth got a new knitting set. Jake got new work gloves and a book about fishing. Sarah got a lovely scarf and a photo album. But the best gift came last. Sarah handed Jake a small wrapped box. Jake opened it carefully. Inside was a picture frame. The frame held a photo of the four of them, Sarah, Jake, Emma, and Beth, taken just last week. They were all smiling, arms around each other, looking like a real family. Below the photo, Sarah had written, "Family isn't just blood. It's who shows up in the storm." Jake stared at the photo for a long time. Then he pulled Sarah into a hug. "Thank you," he whispered, "for giving me a reason to live again." "Thank you for saving us," Sarah whispered back, "in more ways than one." Emma came over and hugged both of them. Beth joined in too. They stood there in a group hug, this family that had been formed not by blood but by circumstance and choice and love. Jake thought about that night a year ago, how he had almost missed them in the snow, how close he had come to driving right past, how different his life would be if he had not seen that flash of pink in the darkness. One choice. One moment. One decision to stop and help. That was all it had taken to change everything. Jake had saved Sarah and Emma's lives that night. But in truth, they had saved his too. They had reminded him what it meant to live, to care, to love, to have a family. He had been just existing before, going through the motions, waiting for his life to end so he could be reunited with the family he had lost. But now he understood. His life was not over. It had been given a second chance, a new beginning, and he was going to make the most of it. Later that evening, after all the presents were opened and dinner was finished, after Emma had fallen asleep on the couch with Mr. Bear, Jake stood at the window looking out at the snow. It was snowing again, soft and gentle, covering the world in white. But this time the snow did not look cold and dangerous. It looked beautiful, peaceful. Sarah came to stand beside him. She slipped her hand into his. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. Jake looked at her, at this woman who had changed his life, and smiled. "I'm thinking about how grateful I am. For the snow. For that night. For everything that brought us here," Jake said. "I'm thinking that sometimes the worst storms bring us exactly where we need to be." Sarah leaned her head on his shoulder. "I'm grateful too." They stood there together watching the snow fall, surrounded by warmth and love and the sound of Beth's gentle snoring from the other room, and Emma's soft breathing from the couch. This was home. This was family. This was everything.